Hello. Hi, students. As part of our history unit, we're going to be learning about the causes and nature of movements of large groups of people into and within the United States. We're going to also understand how communities in North America varied long ago, including the changes in community life over time. Understand the contributions and significance of historical figures in our community. And also, we will understand how democratic values come to be and how they have been exemplified by people, events, and symbols in our country. We're going to focus in different historical figures. By reading this text, we'll be focusing on the genre of informational texts, specifically biographies, which are true life stories. Inside of these texts, we need to pay close attention to the picture captions, glossaries or vocabulary in boldface, graphics such as timelines, diagrams, and maps. Remember that biographies are true life stories that are often told in chronological order or in a specific time and order. Learning the events in the order they happen can help you understand how one event may have led to the next. Some of the common themes that we are going to have and learn through the reading of each one of these and many more is that they are all remarkable people. They all faced challenges, followed dreams, fought for causes, and they helped to shape our country's identity as well as their own. They all inspire us. If we think of a personal connection, specifically on the biography of Squanto, which the title indicates he was a friend to the Pilgrims, we are going to learn about someone who helped another. Think of it as this: if a new student or students joined our class, what could you do to help them settle in? Would you tell them where materials are kept or give them other helpful advice about the classroom or school? What else could you do to make newcomers feel welcome? This biography is about a Native American named Squanto. He welcomed the Pilgrims when they came to America by showing them how to survive in their new home in a time when the United States was not yet a country. Let's learn about Squanto and how he helped the new settlers from Europe to America. Squanto lived from about 1585 to 1622. The first year is telling us that it's an approximate. It is not proven exactly when his date of birth was, but we can date him around 1585, the year of birth, to 1622, the year of his death. Squanto was a Native American. He lived at the time when the Pilgrims came to America. Squanto helped the Pilgrims in many ways. We're going to read on to learn about his life. These words in bold black faced are words that are important to understand and to keep in mind as we learn about Squanto. Also, the pictures and the illustrations are ideas that we make in our mind about what could have or how could have been in those times. The words attached to the picture are captions. They describe in detail what's happening in the picture or the illustration. Also, years in biography and words that resemble time, as when Squanto was a boy. It is telling us already in which order of his life these events happened. In other words, chronological. What happens first, next, and finally. Let's read. Squanto was born around the year of 1585 in the village of Patuxet. He was a Wampanoag, that's the name of the native people that he belonged to. His real name was Dasquantum, but people called him Squanto. Let's take a look at the village where he lived. I can tell about the Wampanoag people that they knew how to live in nature. They lived close to water, which appears to be either a river or a great lake. I see tree trunks. That means that they probably were people from the forest. They grow crops. They also go hunting or fishing. They know how to build a campfire. They make their own pottery to prepare to clear water and prepare their food. Mothers, which I think that's a baby, will take care of their young, the home, the crops. They children also had work and responsibilities around the camp. Squanto lived in Patuxet. This is the place we now call Plymouth, the states of Massachusetts. When Squanto was a boy, only Native Americans lived in America. As he grew older, traders and explorers came to America from Europe. Traders and explorers. Trading. I wonder what that means. Explorers sounds like exploradores. And I know that these explorers like to go investigate and learn. If I look at the picture, I see European men and Native American young men, and they look friendly to each other, and one is offering something to another. The Wampanoag traded furs, animal skins. They got knives, cuchillas, and beads, cuentas o piedras, in return. So that's what means exchange. I give you something, you give me something in return. In 1614, time has passed. Some of the traders forced That means that he did not go willingly. Squanto did not agree to go. Traders, European, forced him to go to Spain, España. They planned to sell him, venderlo, as a slave, un esclavo. But Squanto got away and went to England. Hmm, wow. What does that tell me from before? The Spanish from Spain, Europeans from Spain, came to the Americas, and apparently they were not as friendly as other pilgrims, and they took him as a slave to sell him in Spain. Squanto somehow escaped and ended in England, Inglaterra. When he was in England, Squanto learned to speak English. Squanto returned home after 5 years. But when he got to his village, everyone was gone. Oh no. All the people there had died of a terrible disease. So sad. 5 years is not a long time when many, if not all, his family died. Squanto's people were gone, so he went to live with another group of Wampanoag. This means that the exchange between European immigrants to the Americas was not as peaceful as we think it might have been. In 1620, time has passed. A group of settlers arrived in Patuxet, and these pilgrims have sailed from England to America to start a new life. They call their home New Plymouth. The Wampanoag feared the new settlers. Of course, can you imagine why they would not fear them? It seems like when they arrived, they brought sickness that killed many Native Americans. And so they were afraid of new settlers. But Squanto wanted to help them because when Squanto went to Europe, he did not have a good experience in Spain because he was taken as a slave. When he escaped to England, he had a different experience. He learned English and how to communicate with the people. So perhaps he feels gratitude and wants to be a helper rather than fear them. Life in their new home was hard for pilgrims. They did not know how to hunt or plant crops. They did not know how to build warm homes. So the first winter for the pilgrims was long and cold. So many pilgrims died. Many pilgrims that arrived from the ships to stay in the Americas died because of sickness and the cold weather. They were not prepared to adapt as easily to this new land. This is how Squanto helped. When the winter was over, Squanto visited the pilgrims. He went with another Native American named Samoset. Squanto told the pilgrims he would teach them how to live in this new land. Squanto showed the pilgrim men how to hunt deer, wild turkeys, and other animals. He also showed them the best places to catch fish and clams, almejas. Squanto showed the pilgrims how to catch fish in shallow streams. This is a stream. It is shallow because it just goes below the knee, the water depth. Squanto helped and showed how to and where to go for fish. Squanto showed the pilgrims the best ways to farm. He taught them how to put fish in the soil with the seeds. This will help the crops grow. Can you see how they prepare the dirt, the land with the mounds and lows, mounds and lows? We will make a hole on the mounds, put the seeds, and put one piece of fish inside with the seeds. So when it rotted, it will give nutrients to the seeds and help the plants grow fertile soil. Squanto taught the pilgrims how to plant corn, beans, and squash. He knew that these crops grow well together. Let's take a look at this picture right here. This is what we call a diagram. It is a diagram because it is a representation. It has also bubbles and words with arrows pointing to each part of the picture. It mentions three things: corn, which is the tall plant that grows the corn cobs; beans, which is a vine that ravels around the stem, tall stem of the corn, and it grows beans; squash, which grows close to the earth or the ground and grows heavy fruit. The corn and beans grew together. The squash plants grew nearby. It was a great method of planting the vegetables so that each one of the vegetables would take care of the other. In the fall, the crops were ready to be picked and eaten. So the pilgrims were happy. They had lots of food. Pilgrim women gathered the vegetables. The pilgrims wanted to celebrate their great harvest. This is when they gather the vegetables and the fruits from the earth. They held a huge feast. A feast is a big putting together different meals. About 90 Wampanoag came to the celebration. A celebration is a gathering, a happy gathering, uniting to celebrate. And they were celebrating the harvest. This was another way for the pilgrims to say thank you to the Wampanoag Native Americans that welcomed them and helped them adjust and survive in this new land. The Wampanoag brought 5 large deer to the feast. They went hunting. And they were also bringing something to the celebration to share. They were sharing peacefully at the table. The celebration lasted 3 days. Can you imagine? The pilgrims in Wampanoag ate many meals. They also played games. They got along very well. They ate sweet corn pudding, but no pumpkin pie. Fish, vegetables, soups. The pilgrims were thankful for their harvest, and they were thankful for Squanto and all his help. Squanto had every reason to be scared. He had every reason not to want to welcome them, since he was taken away as a slave by the Spaniards. But he also learned that just as bad people, there are good people. He found that in England, and because he was able to see the two sides, he was also able to give back in gratitude for coming back to his home. At the end of this text, you can tell that there is a glossary. The glossary is a collection of important words that gives us its meaning, and we can always refer back to it when we need to understand better a very important word. Like settler, a person who moves to a new land or country. Those were the pilgrims. The Wampanoag people, a Native American people in southeastern Massachusetts and eastern Rhode Island. I hope you enjoyed learning about Squanto, a very important Native American who helped the Pilgrims.